Hey, Tom Hartman here. Why sign up for my program's free daily newsletter over at tom.tv? Well, every morning you receive an email with a complete list of the topics we'll be covering on our weekday program. After the show's over, every afternoon, you'll get what I call Sue's Daily Stack that gives you hot links to every single story and information source that we talked about during the show. Plus, every day while the show is live, you can watch it at tom.tv without cost. That, podcast of the show, a complete library of every subject discussed on previous shows, a place to view it live. It's all at tom.tv. So why sign up to get all this at no cost? Because we want you to join us to help change the world for the better. Despair is not an option. Sign up now at tom.tv. That's THOM.tv to get all the ammunition you need to win the water cooler wars. Tom.tv. Tag You're It. Hey friends, Tom Hartman here to tell you about my brand new book. It's called The Tom Hartman Reader. Tom Hartman Reader is unlike any of my other books. It's a collection of my best and most revealing writings. The country is headed down the wrong track, overwhelmed with joblessness, declining wages, and corporations deciding it's time we rebooted something bigger than our computers. It's time we rebooted the American dream. We must restore the thriving, prosperous days we once had. And my new book, Rebooting the American Dream, explains exactly what we need to do. Bringing our jobs and manufacturing home, rolling back the Reagan tax cuts, ending corporate personhood, and educating our electorate are part of the simple 11-step plan in rebooting the American dream that we can start today to rebuild our country. Check out Rebooting the American Dream in bookstores everywhere and online at tomhartman.com. We can recover the American dream we lost 30 years ago to Reaganomics and the Reagan-Bush-Clinton-Bush era. We're all in this together. Please check out Rebooting the American Dream by yours truly, Tom Hartman, in bookstores everywhere and online at tomhartman.com. Hey, Tom Hartman here. Why sign up for my program's free daily newsletter over at tom.tv? Well, every morning you receive an email with a complete list of the topics we'll be covering on our weekday program. After the show's over, every afternoon, you'll get what I call Sue's Daily Stack that gives you hot links to every single story and information source that we talked about during the show. Plus, every day while the show is live, you can watch it at tom.tv without cost. That, podcast of the show, a complete library of every subject discussed on previous shows, a place to view it live. It's all at tom.tv. So why sign up to get all this at no cost? Because we want you to join us to help change the world for the better. Despair is not an option. Sign up now at tom.tv. That's THOM.tv to get all the ammunition you need to win the water cooler wars. Tom.tv. Tag You're It. Help support progressive radio. If you're listening to us on a commercial station, call their advertisers and let them know you're listening. If you're listening to us on Pacifica or one of our many nonprofit stations, please support them when they do their fundraising drives. Thanks for supporting progressive talk radio and tag You're It. Have you ever wondered how some people manage to defy age and stay incredibly active into their golden years? Just ask Chuck Norris. He's 83 years old and looks amazing, still kicking, punching, and feeling great. Chuck Norris's key to longevity started when he created a formula called Morning Kick. Morning Kick combines 10 supplements into one. And when it comes to health, this is a real game changer. I love it. Morning Kick isn't your average drink. It's a powerful new formula that helps support joints, gives you energy, and makes you think clearer. Morning Kick has probiotics to help shed those extra pounds and prebiotics for healthy digestion, superfoods for muscles and joints, and some of the most potent anti-aging supplements you can find. If you've been searching for that extra boost to energy, enhance your overall well-being, or you just want to feel younger, go to roundhouseprovisions.com. That's roundhouseprovisions.com and use the code EASY or text EASY to 511-511 and claim 40% off and a 90-day satisfaction guarantee. These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Tax fees may apply. roundhouseprovisions.com.
I'm Amy Goodman. The situation in Gaza continues to deteriorate, with the World Health Organization calling the besieged territory a death zone. Israeli attacks continue on mosques, shelters, health facilities, and humanitarian aid sites. The Palestinian Center for Human Rights reported the killing of human rights defender Noor Nasser Abu al-Noor and 7 of her family members, including her 2-year-old daughter, in an Israeli airstrike. Meanwhile, Doctors Without Borders said an Israeli attack on its shelter in al-Mawasi killed family members of its staff. Despite soaring hunger rates, satellite images show hundreds of food and aid trucks have been waiting at the Rafah border crossing to enter Gaza. Palestinian officials say those in northern Gaza have only had access to animal feed for the past 3 weeks. In the occupied West Bank, a shooting attack on a highway near an illegal settlement killed at least 1 Israeli and injured several others. 2 of the 3 Palestinian gunmen were shot and killed on the scene. Israel's extreme right Minister of National Security, Itamar Ben-Gvir, seized on the attack to call for even more restrictions on Palestinian movement and for more weapons to be distributed to Israeli vigilantes.
A very big disaster was prevented here, thanks to the fact that all police officers in the Israeli police are carrying weapons, and thanks to the fact that citizens have weapons. We are handing out more and more weapons.
This comes amidst ongoing military raids across the occupied West Bank and attacks by Israeli settlers. At least 400 West Bank Palestinians have been killed since October 7th. More than 7,000 others have been arrested. In The Hague, hearings continue at the International Court of Justice over Israel's occupation of Palestine. State Department lawyer Richard Visek presented arguments for the U.S. yesterday.
Under the established framework, any movement towards Israel's withdrawal from the West Bank and Gaza requires consideration of Israel's very real security needs. We were all reminded of those security needs on October 7. And they persist. The court should not find that Israel is legally obligated to immediately and unconditionally withdraw from occupied territory.
Alongside Fiji, the U.S. is the only country participating in the World Court hearings in favor of allowing Israel's decades-long occupation of Palestine to continue. Earlier today, an official from the Chinese Foreign Ministry, Ma Xingmin, addressed the court.
In pursuit of the right to self-determination, Palestinian people use force to resist foreign oppression and complete the establishment of an independent state. Is inalienable right, well founded in international law.
President Biden's facing more backlash over his handling of the humanitarian crisis at the U.S.-Mexico border following reports the White House is considering executive action to deny the right to request asylum for migrants who enter through non-official ports of entry. The authority was previously invoked by the Trump administration. In response, Congressional Progressive Caucus Chair Pramila Jayapal said, quote, "Cruel enforcement-only policies have been tried for 30 years and simply they do not work." She went on to say, taking pages out of Donald Trump and Stephen Miller's playbook, "We need to lead with dignity and humanity," she said. In related news, Texas has sued a faith-based shelter in the border city of El Paso over its work providing humanitarian aid to migrants. The targeting of Annunciation House, which provides food and housing for migrants and asylum seekers, is the latest attack by the administration of Republican Texas Governor Greg Abbott as he intensifies his border and immigration crackdown. Earlier this month, Republican Attorney General Ken Paxton ordered the group to turn over documents, including personal information on asylum seekers they've assisted. In more immigration news, a court in Washington, D.C. is hearing arguments today in a lawsuit accusing the Biden administration of racial discrimination and rights violations of Haitian asylum seekers. The suit was brought by the Haitian Bridge Alliance in 2021 on behalf of 11 Haitian asylum seekers who describe being abused by U.S. border agents, as more than 15,000 people, mostly from Haiti, were forced to stay in a makeshift border encampment on the banks of the Rio Grande near the Acuña del Rio International National Bridge in Texas. One of the plaintiffs is Mirar Joseph, who was photographed as a Border Patrol agent on horseback, lashed him with split reins, grabbed his neck, and gripped Joseph by the shirt collar. After the assault, Joseph and his family were detained and deported to Haiti. Here in New York, the drug trafficking trial of former Honduran President Juan Orlando Hernandez is underway. Prosecutors accuse Hernandez of ruling Honduras like a narco state as he accepted millions of dollars in bribes from cocaine traffickers in exchange for protection. In the months after his presidential term ended in 2022, Hernandez was arrested, then extradited to the U.S. He was a long-time U.S. ally who received unconditional backing during his 8-year term, despite mounting reports of serious human rights violations and accusations of corruption and involvement with drug smuggling.
Mary had a little man.
We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream today. Change has come to America.
Believe me.
Help is on the way.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
Starting this morning, 153,000 borrowers will be receiving an email from President Biden telling them their debts have been forgiven, wiped clean. A total of $1.2 billion in loans. Now, to qualify, you must be enrolled in the president's signature repayment plan and have a low original balance, less than $12,000, and have been making payments for at least 10 years. Now, if you meet the criteria, your loans will be forgiven in the coming days. Millions of Americans are enrolled in this repayment plan, and this is just the first tranche. So anyone who enrolls now and meets the criteria going forward will also see this relief. With this latest round, the Biden administration has now approved almost $138 billion in debt relief for 3.9 million people. This is something the president is eager to tout, especially after his initial plan was struck down by the Supreme Court last year. As Biden is well aware, voters are frustrated, and he wants to show he's making good on his promise.
Yay, Biden! Help is on the way, everybody. Promise made, promise kept. Why don't we know this? Why isn't this on like an endless loop also? Why isn't this on the TV like every minute of every single day now up until the... I think it's they don't want you to, appreciate anything that he does. I honestly think every time Biden does something great like the Infrastructure Act or the CHIPS Act or, the first gun, laws that we've seen, in, 30 years, some crazy thing. They actually have to, distract you with Crazy Man, with the orange bloated, thing there. Who's all about Christian, white Christian nationalism. And he's not white, he's not Christian, and he's definitely not a nationalist. He's a self-serving, painted orange, bloated, selfish piece of fraud is what he is. But 150,000 loan borrowers are enrolled in the SAVE program. This is a signature repayment plan. That amounts to $1.2 billion total. He's just he's forgiving is what it is. I think that's very Christian. But okay, so some people are going to have a problem because some people always have a problem because some people are always harboring grievances that somebody will get something that they didn't get. Like an education. That would be one of those things. But that's not the way they see this issue. They don't see it as somebody got an education and you didn't. They see it as somebody actually borrowed money and didn't have to pay it back. Well, I got news for you, pal. You maybe didn't serve in the military, but you get the protection of the most awesome military on the planet, don't you? Don't you? Mm-hmm. They're on that wall all night. They're there every single day protecting you from invasions and same thing with the police, okay? Maybe you're not a police officer. Maybe you never joined the police. Maybe you don't want to be a police officer. Maybe you're not fit to be. But you still get, your streets patrolled, don't you? And people still answer 911. Oh, 911. So you know what happened today? Is this thing on? Yeah, today AT&T went dark, okay, in several different places. Down detector, anybody know what down detector is? We use it all the time because, we'll come in and the internet's out. All right, go to down detector, see if it's us or if it's them. It's always an us and them, right? So you go to down detector, and down detector actually had, Houston and Miami and, places all over, mostly the East Coast and the southern part of the East Coast. Oklahoma City, Atlanta, Dallas, Houston, New Orleans, Raleigh, North Carolina. 90 million U.S. Cell phone users use AT&T, and they had no phone service today. So you know what I was thinking of? I was thinking of this yesterday. Did you hear Mr. Grievance Man, Mr. Angry Man from, I'm guessing he was from the upper portion of Michigan. What do we call those people?
Youpers. And he was.
Was he?
Yeah, he actually said upper Michigan, I believe, when he was talking to me.
See, and I guessed. You filled me in on what they're called, but I said he's got to be from up there, from this part. Hello. Remember him? And he just wanted to know, do I have a gun? And he has a gun because when the United States goes broke, this was his theory. This was his working theory for life. Okay, this is how he plans his life. This is how he programs himself to operate in what he views a dire situation. Okay, so he wanted to know, do you have a gun? And I was like, I didn't answer him because it's none of his business whether I do or I don't. But he said he did. He had a gun. And I asked him, why? Because when the United States goes broke, he wanted to know how much money was, basically freedom worth. How much would we spend on it for Ukraine, basically, I think was where he was going, but he never got there. And I said, whatever it costs. That's the price of freedom. Literally, that is the price of freedom. Literally. And he said, well, when we go broke, they're going to come to my door and I have a gun. I'm like, wait a minute. How does this work? How does this go? Okay, so we go broke. That would be called a Great Depression. God forbid. Knock wood, does not happen. But that would be a Great Depression. Now, we've had one of those. We've actually had a massive recession in 2008, so everybody can remember at least one, right? We also know what happened to the economy during COVID, and supply chains were interrupted, and the cost of it. So we kind of know it doesn't cause people to come to your door. And it really doesn't matter if you have a gun or you don't in that scenario. So I asked him, why would they be coming to your door? And then we had dead silence, like a lot of silence. So I just said, okay, thanks. And that was the end of him. But today, when the AT&T went out in all these places, in Atlanta and Dallas and Miami and Houston and New Orleans and Oklahoma City and Raleigh, I realized the preppers, they need to be told this because I want to help them. That's like kind of why I'm here. I really do want to help everybody, especially in a crisis, especially in a traumatizing situation like, I don't know, the Republican Party defaults the United States. We're staring down they say a partial shutdown, okay, a small temporary shutdown on March 1st, right? Because they're on freaking vacation. And Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House that you never heard of, he doesn't really want to pay the bills. He's really not into it. Now, we'll know what happens by April 30th. Why April 30th? Just remember this, okay? April 30th is the day that an automatic 1% cut across the board goes into effect for the entirety of the United States budget if they don't pass a new budget, okay? And they keep kicking the can down the road. And and that's why we're looking at a partial shutdown March 1st. Okay. But I wanted to tell dude up there in northern Michigan, the Youper, I wanted to tell him that today I experienced what you really need in case the crap hits the fan. And I want you to know this. You have a gun, but I have a landline.
Checkmate.
Everybody today that was freaked out that they didn't have their cell phone service, and it was tens of thousands of people did not have. And there was they counted, there were 13,000 outages reported as of 9 a.m., but they started to see the outages at 3 a.m. Eastern, and at 3 a.m. there were like 75,000 reports of outage. I'm like, that's how many people are calling their drug dealers. Okay, we now have a quantifiable amount of people that call their drug dealers at 3 a.m. that couldn't get through. And so they were trying to test out their phones to see if they could call 911. Well, you can call, if your phone is on, like emergency SOS mode, you can call 911. So they had to put out a notice to these people who were trying to get through to their drug dealers at 3 a.m. who couldn't, stop calling 911. You can call 911 even if you have no cell phone service, okay? It's a feature of your freaking phone. It tells you it's in SOS mode because SOS means you can only call 911. Stop calling us. And they wouldn't stop calling. I mean, it's sort of kind of fixed right now. But I just wanted to let him know. The gun, I don't know. You might like it. It might feel good to you. It might be a replacement for some other part. I don't know. I don't care. What I do know is you're going to need a landline if we ever get hacked. If this thing ever goes down. Gun, no.
Clear for takeoff. Randi Rhodes. Randi Rhodes. Randi Rhodes. RandiRhodes.com.
The Bob Cesca Show.
Bob Cesca. Am I crazy, or should the Smirnov story end the Republican Party? I mean, I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. This should be a much bigger deal than kind of what I'm seeing in the mainstream press once again.
You're certainly not crazy. I mean, you may be, but not in this way. You know,
Thank you.
It's insane. I mean, he even has a great name, Smirnoff, right? Like, it's already a good brand to be talking about.
That's right.
You know?
This guy's surrounded by Russian intelligence officials who are feeding him disinformation to then feed to the Republican Party. And now it's all out there. The Republican Party either willingly accepted the disinformation or stupidly accepted the disinformation. I think either explanation is equally damning, don't you think?
Of course. I mean, either we've got a couple of morons running things, which we know we do. I mean, James Comer and Jim Jordan are guys that you kind of feel like should be sitting in a padded room, or maybe not let them near animal feces because they might start playing in it. When you start looking at all this stuff, you know, when you say, why isn't this the biggest story? Yeah, because if you look at the context of Donald Trump and Paul Manafort and Gates, how can we believe that only Trump has been bought off? Clearly Rand Paul, as John McCain once said, and I just did a video about, was the senator for Vladimir Putin. That's what McCain's words, that he was so anti-NATO. We've got Mike Lee and others in that same boat. And then you start looking at the ones like Mike Johnson, George Santos, all these people that were bought off. And now you see this, Comer and Jim Jordan literally laundering Russian talking points and the whole Hunter Biden Burisma thing. But a lot of people have now heard it a million times over and will believe it. And you just say to yourself, how is this not the biggest story in the history of civilization?
Bob Cesca. It's the Bob Cesca Show. New episodes every Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, everywhere you get your podcasts, and at bobcescashow.com.
I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. On this day in labor history, the year was 2004. That was the day Secretary of Education Rod Page stated that he considered the National Education Association to be a terrorist organization. He made the remarks during a meeting with governors who were visiting the White House. His apology a few hours later was just as inflammatory. There he expressed his frustration at the, quote, obstructionist scare tactics the NEA's Washington lobbyists have employed against No Child Left Behind's historic reforms. Representing almost 3 million educators, the NEA had been fighting many aspects of the No Child Left Behind Act passed by Congress in 2001. The teachers' unions had initially supported the measure, but they came to realize that the act was designed to undermine public education in favor of charter, private, and religious schools. No Child Left Behind mandated regular standardized testing of students. It also threatened financial penalties and school closures. Governors on board with the goals of the act soon grew frustrated. The Bush administration reneged on federal funding necessary for its implementation. The union movement was outraged at Page's smear. John Sweeney, then president of the AFL-CIO, said, quote, the Bush administration would like to label all those who disagree with it as terrorists in order to cover up its policies, which are harmful to working families and to divert attention from its inability to create good jobs. By 2015, the No Child Left Behind Act had received so much criticism from every corner that the Every Student Succeeds Act replaced it. This act retains Common Core standards but transfers school accountability to the states. It is now pending review under President Donald Trump's Regulatory Freeze Directive. In 2017, it was pending review under President Donald Trump's Regulatory Freeze Directive.
Don't give up. Don't give up. What's true?
All things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, The Randi Rhodes Show.
Kamala and I ran to lead this country. We made a commitment to fix our broken student loan system. It was one of the things we both talked about in the beginning. Because while a college degree is still a ticket to a better life, that ticket is too expensive. And too many Americans are still saddled with unsustainable debt in exchange for a college degree. This plan is the most generous repayment program ever, and today we're doing it even faster and quicker than ever before. I'm proud to announce our SAVE plan. We are immediately canceling the debt loans for over 150,000 borrowers, nearly 6 months ahead of schedule. Starting today, we're canceling student debt for borrowers who are enrolled in the SAVE plan and have been paying student loans for as little as 10 years. This action will be a huge help to graduates of community college and borrowers of smaller loans, putting them back on track faster for debt forgiveness than ever before. This builds on other progress I've made in canceling student debt for close to 4 million Americans. This is kind of relief can be life-changing for individuals and for their families. And it's good for the economy as a whole. I promise you I'm never going to stop fighting for hardworking American families. So if you qualify, you'll be hearing from me shortly.
Check your email, basically, is the message there. So if you are somebody who borrowed to go to, let's say, community college, which is, something a lot less expensive than Harvard, which doesn't do you any good. I mean, just look at Ted Cruz. You want to end up like that? Do you? Do you? No, you don't. That is a bitter old bastard, okay? That is not where you want to be in life. But anyway, if you went to community college, let's say you racked up about $12,000 worth of debt, and, you're still paying on it after 10 years, you now will get an email from President Biden, saying that your debt's forgiven. Woo! It's like magic. It's unbelievable. And of course it helps the economy. Of course it does. How does it do that? How? Well, if you don't have to pay student loan debt, maybe you buy a house. If you don't have to pay student loan debt, maybe you start a business. I don't know. Up to you. You're free to go. Do you know what I'm saying? So it's a great thing. The Supreme Court said no to him. Now he's forced to, because the Senate and the House, they won't do anything for ordinary people. They won't pass any legislation. They wouldn't even pass an anti-gouging bill. Do you remember that? You remember that? That was freaking believable. Nobody remembers that, but that was what was going on during the heavy-duty, high inflation period following COVID. There were shortages of things. The supply chains were broken. There was gouging on top of it, driving up the prices of, crazy things like you couldn't even get Infamil. You couldn't even get it. But, okay, so all of that had to be fixed and blah, blah, blah. And, he gets no credit for doing any of that. He gets no credit for straightening any of that out. But here we were in the middle of this, okay, and the Democrats said, let's do an anti-gouging bill. Let's make sure that the cost of things really is based on shortages or really is based on a broken supply chain, and that it's not happening because they're in the mood to gouge you and they can get away with it because everything is expensive that had a disrupted supply chain associated with it. So maybe we can glom onto that and people will just think, oh, well, there was and there wasn't. It was like, there was no problem with oil and gas, like none. Okay. And of course we are energy independent. The United States is. We get no credit for that either. The Democrats don't. That's kind of sick and twisted. But the anti-gouging bill, they couldn't even get an anti-gouging bill to get sign-off by Republicans to help the American people. Do you really think they're going to do anything about student loan debt? You know what they do about student loan debt? They make you bitter. They make you resentful for people who tried to go to community college to get an education and ended up owing money for more than 10 years now and have been paying on it for more than 10 years now. Used to be you had to pay on it for 20 years. 20 years. I remember I was shocked because, I didn't go to college. I mean, I went to community college on a Pell Grant, for 2 semesters. But then, that was the end of it because I got into talk radio and it was like, oh, who needs college? And here I am in a Commerce Park in Delray. How'd that work out for you? Go to college. So anyway, honestly, people are paying on these loans for 20 years, and I didn't know that. And I was taking calls from people when this first became a thing, when it first became an issue, when Joe Biden first started talking about it and recognizing that this was a driving force in a lot of, senior citizens' lives. Now they're on fixed incomes, and guess what? They still owe student loan debt from 20, 30 years ago. Yes, it was true. People went to nursing school. People went to business school. They got their master's degree. They got a social work degree. Social working is a master's degree. I mean, that you don't even appreciate when you don't go to college, like how much school it takes to become a certain thing. Do you know what I'm saying? Like lawyers, 4 years of college, 3 more years. Then doctors, you have 4 years of college, medical school, residency. The whole. I mean, it's like 10 days on, 10 days off, no sleep over there. People don't realize. Because we didn't do it. We didn't do it. But there were people out there that were just, still paying their student loan debts after 30 freaking years. So prior, you had to be paying on your student loan to get forgiveness for at least 20, 25 years. Today, it was 10 years. 10 years. So there you have it. I mean, it's unbelievable. And so MSNBC was sitting there asking the same question, like, why don't people know this? Why won't they? Because it's a campaign of utter, complete distraction so that you won't give credit to Joe Biden for making your life better. Whether it was because there's a new chips factory being built in your town, or if it's because you're working on a construction project on infrastructure, or if it's because there's been an investment in your community for, housing, or because there's student loan forgiveness that affected people in your community who can now go out and look at buying a house or can now start a business in, that's been in the back of their minds forever. It's just so unbelievable, right?
There is a coordinated campaign to distract us from watching all this. I mean, you've been speaking about the fact that the Republicans in the House are so focused on this, what we now know is a Russian disinformation campaign to prove some non-existent, fraud between Joe and Hunter Biden. I mean, that is to distract the American people from the fact that what Biden is accomplishing in office is delivering tangible wins. I mean, legislatively, we have PACT Act, CHIPS Act, the American Rescue Plan, the infrastructure package, the gun safety law, the Inflation Reduction Act, canceling, almost $150 billion for 3.9 million borrowers and adding 14.5 million jobs. I mean, these are wins on top of wins. So the Republicans are desperate to make sure that we can't see this stuff.
Really? Although I disagree in this weird way. Not that it serves the purpose of distracting you, saying Hunter Biden is, the laptop or whatever. You just have to say laptop and everybody's distracted, right? I get it. But this is really an effort to make Biden unelectable. I mean, the whole thing with butthurt emails, the whole thing with he's too old, the whole thing with Hunter Biden and Joe Biden were on the take. None of that is true. None of it is true. But they do want to make Joe unelectable. I mean, but it also distracts from the win on top of a win on top of a win scenario that we find ourselves in. And then today, Biden said maybe he'll use executive orders on the border because the House won't do it.
Clear for takeoff. Randi Rhodes. RandiRhodes.com.
This is Stephanie Miller, and here's what you missed.
Credit where credit is due. Hal Sparks has been calling BS on this entire Russia, Hunter Biden, Burisma nonsense from the Republicans from the very beginning.
Yeah.
And I just want to be clear that Hal was on top of that.
Someone should take
right, as he usually is.
Someone should take him on a tour to save the world, a comedy tour.
Wait, I don't know who could do that.
Somebody should do that.
Somebody should
he
think
is
about
he is
that.
a weapon.
Chris, you have an idea for that?
I have running a few things by me.
Oh, okay, good.
We played this stupid, Trump doubles down on attacking America's NATO allies. There's an ocean between us. And you said, hey, dingus, which you had me at hello. Yeah. You had me at hey, dingus.
I can't not say that.
The ocean didn't help us on September 11, 2001, after which all NATO signatories per Article 5 pledged their support. The only time Article 5 has been invoked, by the way. I contend Donald Trump has never read a book. Do you agree?
I would absolutely agree. And I assure you, he's never read the NATO charter either.
Yes.
He has no idea. This is all being fed to him from Russia. He's doing this. I mean, what stake does Donald Trump really have with NATO? What does it really mean to him? Absolutely nothing.
He doesn't know what communism means. He doesn't know what fascism means. He just throws out these, okay. He just is.
I'd like to see him point to Poland on a world map. I bet he can't do it. I mean, that's how dumb he is. And when it comes to NATO, he's being fed these talking points because this makes Vladimir Putin very, very happy.
Putin wants,
And, it's like a mentor-apprentice relationship between Putin and Trump. And Trump, honest to God, wants to be the American Putin. That's what he's running to be right now. He's not running to be president. He's running to be president for life.
Yeah, you're confused. You're not Navalny in this scenario. You're Putin. You want to be Putin.
Right.
Hear all this and more on the next Stephanie Miller Show.
Joe Biden is ready to protect America's southern border, crack down on illegal crossings, set tough but fair new standards, build up Border Patrol, adding thousands of new agents, stop the flow of fentanyl, child sex traffickers, and even terrorists. There's only one problem.
Donald Trump.
Donald Trump has ordered Republicans to block the toughest immigration bill in decades. For all their tough talk, their solution is to do nothing, because Donald Trump needs chaos to win.
He'd rather weaponize this issue than actually solve it.
If he wins, he'll do nothing, just like last time. His wall, a joke. Donald Trump doesn't care if your family's safety or the lives of law enforcement officers are in the balance. He's on the side of the cartels, coyotes, and child traffickers. There's only one candidate who will do something about our border, and it was never Donald Trump.
Here's our big word of the day: extraterritoriality. It expresses a sketchy legal theory asserting that rulers in one state have a right to enforce their laws in another state. The most prominent use of it was in the infamous Fugitive Slave Act of 1850, requiring officials in northern anti-slave states to capture and return escaped slaves to their plantation owners in the South, thus applying Southern slave laws in northern jurisdictions. This abomination was finally repealed in 1864. But 160 years later, here comes another faction of right-wing zealots trying to revive the slave law concept of extraterritoriality, this time applying it to any and all American women who dare to make their own reproductive health decisions. I'm ashamed to say that this repressive use of the doctrine is being led by my state's...
Call in, connect. To speak to Randy, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
Hey, Donald, I just landed in Washington, and I actually went to bed early last night like a normal human being instead of like a jacked up Adderall addict who stays up all night posting on their low-rent Truth Social dollar store social media platform. Listen, the threat, cool, bro, really cool. I love it. Keep it up. We love when you threaten us. It's really a good look for you. You threatened us before to sue us. That didn't work out so well for you because it's now been 500 and I think about 25 days since you threatened to sue us because we were mean to you on television. Boo-hoo, you big orange bloated chode. Listen, I know you don't like the immigration ad we put up about you, but here's the truth. You are Don Coyote. You are on the side of the cartels, Donald. You are on the side of the smugglers, Donald. You are on the side of the child sex traffickers, Donald. You are the one, Donald, who is empowering the fentanyl to flow across the border. You don't like that ad because we tell the truth about you, just like we always do. You are weak. You are desperate. You are pathetic. And guess what? Threaten us all you want, man. You never stop anyway, but you never deliver. You never deliver because you can't. Because as in reference to the video that I talked to you about your lawsuit the first time, almost 2.5 years ago, You're a PAB. You're weak. You're small. You're desperate. We're here, Donald. Lincoln Project's still here. You can't kill us. You've tried. Keep it up, pal. We love it. Keep it up. Bring it. Bring it. Bring it, round boy. Bring it.
Hey, Rick, he can't keep it up. Okay, that's the issue. Okay, small, yes, mushroom-like, can't keep it up. He can't. He can only threaten you because you know he can still use his pie hole. But empty threats. I mean, this guy accomplished absolutely nothing at all. The reason why the border was sort of kind of under control was because of COVID. Title 42. It allowed in a global pandemic scenario for the border to not be open to make claims of asylum. Now, this is what Joe Biden is actually talking about using his executive action to do. Now, Donald Trump once went and tried to use his executive authority to shut down immigration, but only from Muslim countries. And of course, it was deemed unconstitutionally racist to have a religious test for somebody that wants to claim asylum or if somebody wants to immigrate to the United States legally. Okay. And so that totally miserably failed because everything Donald Trump touches miserably fails, as you now know. As you now can see. Okay? But Obama tried to change the asylum laws with executive orders. This was nothing new. This was not any genius thing that Donald Trump thought up on his Muslim ban. This was Stephen Miller being a racist, as Stephen Miller is, and Stephen Miller telling him, people are afraid of Muslims. Why don't you just do a Muslim ban? Why don't you promise a complete and total shutdown of Muslims coming into the country? And he did it, and the Supreme Court said, cut the crap, okay? Really. So now Biden is saying that he's thinking of invoking executive authority to stage a border crackdown, and it will not pass either. But listen, the only reason why Biden has to say that he's going to use an executive order is because the House is run by a little tiny white Christian nationalist named Mike Johnson. If Mike Johnson would put what passed the Senate with bipartisan support, 22 Republicans voted for this comprehensive immigration package. It would go a long way to helping us maintain a normal border, something that looks, like a first world country's border. So the Senate finally did it. House won't do it. Well, the House would do it if Mike Johnson would get the hell out of the way. But of course, where are they? They're on vacation. So we're facing a deadline for funding the United States government. We're on vacation. And we got the border crisis and a passed Senate bill. And the Senate is the heavy lift. The Senate's the hard one, right? Because you need 60. You need like a supermajority to pass anything in the Senate. And we got 22 Republicans to vote with every Democrat. We got comprehensive immigration reform passed in the Senate, and they go on vacation for 2 weeks. So here's Biden going, maybe I could, do an executive order based on, a section of the Immigration Act that was passed 1952. This is the Eisenhower disgusting period in our immigration history. But it's a section called 212F. People who are, sycophantic about Donald Trump, they know this because he kept on threatening to use it too. But it allows for the President of the United States to suspend entry of foreigners when it is determined that the arrival of the foreigners is not in the best interest of the country. That is what Donald Trump used for the Muslim ban. But you can't do it based on religion, which is what he did. Certain countries. Do you know what I'm saying? So anyway, it'll fail this time too. You won't be. But, look, the idea that we have a Congress that is so intent on you remembering only the bad stuff. Only the bad stuff. And none of the good stuff that Joe Biden did do is, standing as an impediment to the national security of the United States. And if people, look, the idea that people coming here illegally, they're not really doing that so much. What they do is they come to I guess everybody needs to know this. They come to the border and they surrender to the Border Patrol. Why do they do that? Because then they can make a claim of asylum. This is why the asylum claim has to be a higher standard. Right now, what we say is credible fear. That's very nebulous. That's very, floaty somewhere in the head of, a judge. Credible fear. But we need to raise that to reasonable suspicion that you will be killed. And not just in your burb, not just in your town, not just in your pueblo, not just in your canton, but if you moved anywhere in your country, you wouldn't be safe. That's the level we need to strive for. That's the level we need to, and you need legislation to do that. So Biden is now saying, hey, listen, maybe we could say people coming here illegally can't make claims of asylum. That won't make a dent in it. I'm telling you, it won't, because people aren't really coming here illegally. They're coming here and surrendering to make the claim of asylum. But nobody wants to help Biden. Nobody wants to do anything about it. And, we just had an election. We just had one. It was a special election to replace that lying sack of the volleyball champion from the college he never went to or never played volleyball at, because he never played volleyball and he never went to college. George Santos' seat, remember that? Okay, so we just had an election there, and they were worried about immigration. They were on Long Island, in my old neck of the woods, okay? And they would not vote for the Republican. You know why? Informed voters. They knew that the Republicans killed the best chance we had for immigration reform in the House and went home.
Clear for takeoff. Randi Rhodes. RandiRhodes.com.
Decades of leadership, a lifetime of experience, and rock-solid determination to rebuild America. Joe Biden's plan for America's economic comeback is working. The highest job growth in the world. Inflation coming down faster than any other major nation. The prices families pay for everything from gas to groceries falling fast. Hope and optimism coming back. His tireless work to build a stronger America means we're respected again. And a respected America is a safer America. Joe Biden's years have taught him leadership, wisdom, toughness, how to ignore the noise and focus on the people. He's a president for every American, making the hard decisions with compassion, heart, and respect. That's Joe Biden, America's president. Something is happening in American politics. For decades, Republicans called themselves the party of strength in foreign policy. Today, the Republican Party attacks our military.
Some of the dumbest people I've ever met in my life.
And cozies up to our enemies.
Hezbollah is very smart. They're all very smart.
Republican senators are blocking key military appointments, making America less safe.
This sweeping hold is undermining America's military readiness.
Republicans are helping Vladimir Putin by calling for the end of military aid to the brave Ukrainians.
Under Republican, not another penny will go to Ukraine.
Today, President Joe Biden is the voice of a strong America.
Let there be no doubt. The United States has Israel's back.
This is an American president.
We cannot and will not let terrorists like Hamas, tyrants like Putin win.
President Joe Biden, America's president.
Hey, Donald, we noticed something. More and more people are saying it. You're weak. You seem unsteady. You need help getting around. And wow.
An enormous, really an enormous country, and you deserve.
Are you sure you don't have dementia? It runs in the family. Have you had a real doctor check you out? You keep confusing things.
And we did with Obama. We won an election.
Getting the facts wrong.
We just left pleasure for paradise.
People laugh about it, about you, even your own people behind your back. You're winning the primary, but losing your power, your strength, your manhood. Face it, Donald. You're just projecting when you call Joe Biden old. He's stronger than you, fitter than you, smarter than you, a better man and a better president. Anyone can see it. And when you lay there at night, alone, you know we're right. You're falling apart, Donald, breaking down right in front of our eyes.
God bless the United States.
He says, "You're not going to be a dictator, are you?" I said, "No, other than day one." Like to punch him in the face, I'll tell you.
You can do anything. Grab him by the pussy.
He's not a war hero. I could stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody, and I wouldn't lose any voting. Very fine people on both sides.
I don't know what I said. I don't remember.
I am your retribution. I am your retribution.
Whether you're listening to Leslie Marshall each Tuesday through Friday or Brad Bannon each Monday, you can hear them from 6 to 7 p.m. Eastern on the Progressive Voices Network. Here's a sample of what you'll hear.
Bob Fisher. Mr. Fisher is Deputy Director of the Teamsters Airline Division. Talk to me about the past with Delta. Delta's been difficult to unionize in the past, right? They also have the fewest union members of the 4 largest passenger carriers. In Delta, only the pilots and the controllers are unionized. Why do you think that is?
Well, they've just been successful. Every time somebody comes knocking on the door to try to organize at Delta, Delta throws money at it, and only in wages. Delta throws out the big shiny object wages and doesn't do anything with the back of the book like vacation or seniority or any of those things. They convince people not to sign a card by giving them wage rates, and then they take it away in other ways, like through their benefits and their retirement and all the other work rules that go along with a contract. But that's how they.
Don't give up. Don't give up. What's true?
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
You have Republicans itching to sign off on this in the Senate. I mean,
Well, it's hard to believe because I think it probably would mean the end of their career. This is a Democrat trap. It's a trap for Republicans that would be so stupid, so foolish to sign a bill like this. This bill can't be signed. And it's not only that, it's massive amounts of money going out of town, as we say, going out of town. Billions and billions and billions of dollars. And it's so bad on the border. I've never seen anything like it. Actually, it's one of the worst, one of the dumbest bills I've ever seen. I think it's dead, totally dead at the House. I think they have almost unanimous support. But I can't imagine anybody wanting to approve this bill.
Okay, so the majority of the House would approve this bill. There's no question about it. Mike Johnson, this singular person holding up progress on the border, is a sycophant of Donald Trump's because he thinks, and this is what all Christian white nationalists think, you can call them white supremacists if you want to, they all think that Donald Trump is the imperfect vessel that God has chosen to spread white Christian nationalism inside the United States, meaning religious tests for immigration, meaning religious tests for citizenship, meaning religious tests for just about every walk of American life. I mean, this is what they've been hoping for, and they think Donald Trump is the person to actually do this. This crazy thing that's going on is real. Okay, the Heritage Foundation, the Project 2025 thing, it's all about white Christian nationalism. And Donald Trump cannot lose the immigration issue, number one. Number two, he still needs Putin's support. And now you know why. Okay, when they, and I mean the Republicans, go gunning for Joe and Hunter Biden, when Comer and Jim Jordan and all these freaks in the House who believe that Joe Biden is a dirty, a dirty bribe-taking president, which is just, I mean, Donald Trump I don't even want to do the whataboutism thing, but $2 billion says Jared Kushner actually made a deal with the Saudis while he was senior advisor to the President of the United States, just saying. And he is related, and so is Ivanka, and she got patents from China. But you have to understand that these dictatorships, these authoritarian regimes, are literally sending agents over here. This is crazy. And our Congress is so stupid or willing to turn a blind eye to the origin of this information and accuse Hunter Biden and Joe Biden of taking bribes based on the testimony of Russian and Chinese agents. And some people don't even remember the Chinese agent. Some people don't even remember this guy that just was, he had to flee. He fled. This guy named Luft. Do you remember him at all? So Mr. Luft was, he was actually helping Iran, Hamas. He was actually helping Iran, Hezbollah, Iran, the Houthis who fight against the Saudis, right? All these proxy groups get weapons, okay? Violating the sanctions that we have on Iran. He was actually rebranding Iranian oil as Brazilian oil, selling it, and then giving the money to Iran and helping them purchase weapons that he was supplying them with. But he wanted to get paid. I mean, it's like a movie. It's like a Matt Damon movie. It really is. But this stuff goes on. It's like Three Kings. You remember that movie? It actually happens. But it only happens when you have idiots in Congress who are letting it happen. And that's what happened with Luft. Back in July, I don't even know if you remember him, but Luft was accused of, being a foreign agent, number one. Number two, violating the sanctions in Iran. Number three, selling weapons to Libya, for God's sake. I guess he was laundering money somewhere along the line through Iranians. And he was the source for saying that Hunter Biden, took money from the Chinese and that he got paid like $5 million from them and $5 million from the Ukrainians, and Biden got $5 million also. And it's all not true. None of it is true, okay? It's all being planted by foreign adversaries of ours who have a vested interest in who wins in 2024. And it ain't Joe Biden that they're rooting for. So, I mean, honestly, this is madness. Why would certain Republicans be now on the side? Well, they were always on the side of Russia. Why would they be on the side of Vlad? Why are they allies? Why is Tucker Carlson over there telling us that life is better in Russia? Life is better in Russia. I know most of you have never been there. I have. Life is not better in Russia. There is no free speech in Russia. There is no freedom of movement in Russia. Oh, do you hear about the American, the Russian American citizen, the dual citizen of both the countries, a ballerina in L.A.? They took her hostage. They need a fresh hostage. So they took this ballerina girl hostage now, too. So they got a Wall Street Journal reporter. They got a ballerina now. It's pretty sick what they do. But you got people in this country rooting for Putin. Rooting, tootin' Putin. Are you insane? Are you out of your mind? I'll tell you why Tucker looks up to Putin. Because Putin doesn't have any black people in Russia. Putin doesn't have Jews in Russia. Putin doesn't have Muslims in, well, he has Muslims in parts of Russia, but he keeps them in like Chechnya, right? I'm telling you right now, it's like the white Christian nationalist wet dream is you make $200 a week. You do what the government tells you to do when the government tells you. You don't do anything that the government tells you cannot do, like criticize it, protest it. You saw the protesters being removed from laying flowers for Navalny. Now Navalny's mother had to go into the disgusting, Arctic prison camp to view her son's body. Today, woohoo, she's, had progress. She saw her dead son, who was just poisoned by Vlad, a freedom fighter, a real one. Not the guy that, hacks along with military personnel in the United States of America that actually gets on the phone with them and says, okay, let's hack into, the national security secrets, and then I'll disseminate them on WikiLeaks. Yeah, he's a hacker, Julian. He's a hacker. That's what he is. Everybody's turned him into a hero. No, Navalny is a hero. If you were looking for one, he would be it, okay? And they killed him. They killed him. Poisoned him again. His mother finally got to see the body. You know what they're doing? They're blackmailing her. They're telling her she cannot have a funeral for him. She cannot bury her son, and if she can bury him, but she needs to bury him there in the Arctic Circle and privately, quietly and private. You know why? Vlad is so afraid of his own people because he suppresses everyone. Okay? Everyone in Russia is suppressed and oppressed. They have no freedom of religion. They have no freedom of speech. They have no freedom of movement. Okay? And when all this started, when he invaded Ukraine and when he started bombing over there, remember how many people left? Remember the woman that I think she was wearing all white. She broke onto the set of Russia One, I guess, and started screaming about how this is a war against all of us, and blow. She had to leave. She had to leave and go to Georgia so that she could report. But you have these freaks of nature in the Republican Party like Mike Johnson. They go, I don't care. It's all in service of a white Christian nationalist country. And I will serve that. I will do it if it helps advance this idea. There's this guy, his name's Russell Boyd. Russell Boyd used to head, under Donald Trump, the Office of Management and Budget, the OMB, the most boring place in the government, right? He has let out some of his pious political views before stricter immigration laws, meaning, and he has actually qualified what he means by stricter immigration. He wants a religious test. No, I'm not kidding. This is what I'm quoting him. The United States should prioritize immigrants who have accepted Israel's God, laws, and understanding of history. That natural law, meaning God's law, is superior to the law of man. Well, the United States is a country that governs itself based on the laws of men, not the laws of the Bible. In fact, in the Constitution, there is no mention of the Bible. Outside of Year of Our Lord, there is no mention of God in the United States Constitution, just is not. The endowed by creator thing is not the Constitution, the Declaration. But anyway, this is what they're this is what they're doing, and they'll do anything for it.
Clear for takeoff. Randi Rhodes. Randi Rhodes. Randi Rhodes. RandiRhodes.com.
911, what's your emergency?
America's healthcare system is broken and people are dying.
Welcome to Code WAC, where we shine a light on America's callous healthcare system, how it hurts us, and what we can do about it. I'm your host, Brenda Gazzar. This time on Code WAC. Some states are making it easier for trans and non-binary individuals to get gender-affirming care, which can include medical interventions such as hormone replacement therapy or transition surgery to help them align various aspects of their lives with their gender identity. But a record number of bans were passed last year to outlaw or limit such care. What kind of toll does this take on those in these communities? What policy solutions are needed to ensure they have access to the medical care they need? To find out, we spoke to Ash Orr, a trans organizer from West Virginia and press relations manager for the National Center for Transgender Equality, or NCTE.
There's been a lot of impacts that we have seen here on our youth. We saw in 2023 alone over 500 bills introduced that targeted LGBTQ plus rights, and over 400 of these bills targeted the rights of the trans community, and close to 150 of these bills specifically aimed to restrict or outright access or ban access to life-saving gender-affirming care for youth, which in some cases was as old as 25. We now have 21 states that have passed bans on gender-affirming care, and these bans include substantial financial professional penalties for the providers that do provide this necessary care to patients.
Get the full Code WAC story on progressivevoices.com and on the PV app. Catch all our episodes by subscribing to Code WAC wherever you find your podcasts. This podcast is powered by Heal California, a nonprofit that uplifts the voices of those fighting for healthcare reform around the country. Until next time, stay healthy.
Now, the top of the hour on the Progressive Voices channel on TuneIn presents the Green News Report.
Chemicals from coal plants and natural gas pipelines can drift hundreds of miles across state lines.
U.S. Supreme Court hears challenge to EPA's landmark Good Neighbor Pollution Rule.
Investing in our water is investing in America.
Biden administration unveils billions in new funding to clean up nation's drinking water. Plus, new study finds near universal global support for climate action.
Interesting. I knew Republicans must live in a different world. All of those stories and more straight ahead from BradBlog.com. I'm Brad Friedman.
And I'm Desi Doyen.
Stand by for 6 minutes of independent green news, politics, analysis, and snarky comment.
Nearly 15% of Americans deny climate change is real. The study found that political affiliation most often played the influential role in determining whether a person believed in climate change or not.
You don't say. I wonder which party doesn't believe in climate change. CBS News didn't tell us. This is your Green News Report. By the way, Desi Doyen, it's mostly Republicans who don't believe in climate change since CBS didn't think it important to tell us.
Yes, it's true.
What do you have for us on today's Green News Report?
Well, first, bizarre winter heat strikes Japan, breaking high temperature records for the month of February by unusually large margins. Axios reports that the record winter warmth in Japan matches unusually warm trends also seen in Europe, Australia, South America, and Asia since the beginning of the year, which scientists attribute to a combination of human-caused climate change and the intense El Nino in the Pacific Ocean.
I don't believe in it.
But in British Columbia, that mid-January outbreak of extreme cold caused catastrophic damage to the province's vineyards, with estimated losses topping nearly $450 million this year, sparking calls for government support. Also in Canada, the province of Alberta declared an early start to wildfire season this week, citing low snowpacks and tinder-dry forests. It's an ominous sign after last year's record-breaking fire season. Plus, officials say a high number of so-called zombie fires from last year are still smoldering under the snowpack and could spark larger wildfires in the spring.
Zombies. I believe in zombies.
Here in the U.S., the U.S. Supreme Court heard oral arguments on Wednesday in a challenge to the Environmental Protection Agency's Good Neighbor Pollution Rule. The rule requires power plants in upwind states to limit toxic air pollutants that drift across state lines and harm people in downwind states. It requires power plants to install pollution controls already in use at other power plants. The EPA says the Good Neighbor plan will save thousands of lives, but the challengers, Ohio, Indiana, West Virginia, and industry groups, say it is too costly and burdensome. Court watchers say it appears that the court's right-wing supermajority has the votes to block the regulation while it undergoes lower court review.
So if I pollute in Ohio, what is that any other state's business? It's just polluting Ohio, right? It's not like, things can actually blow over the border and pollute and make other states sick.
Yeah, air pollution doesn't recognize state lines.
What?
Some good news, a new study across 125 countries finds nearly universal public support around the world for governments to act on climate change. 89% want their governments to do more to tackle global warming. However, people systematically underestimate the commitment of their fellow citizens for action. The researchers attribute that perception gap to the media's focus on a small number of climate change deniers and polluting industries. They say people are more likely to do more for the public good when they understand that others are doing so as well.
So if they don't think someone else is doing it, they think, well, why should I do anything?
Kind of.
Uh-huh.
Finally, this week, Vice President Kamala Harris and EPA Administrator Michael Regan traveled to Pittsburgh to promote the region's success in replacing more than 18,000 lead water pipes.
Nice.
And to announce the next round of investment in all U.S. states and territories to repair the nation's aging water systems. Nearly $6 billion to upgrade drinking water, wastewater, and stormwater infrastructure, all funded by the landmark infrastructure law, which EPA Administrator Regan said is the single largest investment in water infrastructure in the nation's history.
More than $50 billion, and that's billion with a B, to replace lead pipes, protect treasured waters, and build drinking water and wastewater systems that are resilient in the face of climate change.
Wow, removing and replacing all of the lead pipes across the entire country. That sounds pretty good. Which administration is doing that again?
The Biden administration.
Huh. For much more on all of these stories and the ones we couldn't get to today, check out our website at greennews.bradblog.com. Don't forget, you can download our reports anytime via Pandora, TuneIn, Apple, Google, or Amazon Podcasts. Find, follow, and share us planet-wide on the Facebooks, Mastodons, and sites still known as Twitter at Green News Report. I'm Brad Friedman.
And I'm Desi Doyen.
And this has been your Green News Report.
Please help Progressive Voices support the Green News Report by stopping by bradblog.com/donate.
Mary had a little lamb. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America. From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream today.
Change has come to America.
Believe me.
Help is on the way.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
House Oversight Chairman James Comer says he and his colleagues plan to drop a bombshell.
It's going to be Judgment Day tomorrow for the White House.
You have the confidential FBI informant who's basically saying that Joe Biden took $5 million from Burisma.
The informant was a highly valued human source for the FBI.
A trusted, highly credible informant.
A trusted, confidential informant.
They had a credible source, one of their good sources.
Their most credible paid FBI informant.
We have determined that whistleblower is extremely credible.
The details come from an FBI informant who is very trusted.
A highly reliable informant that has always checked out all the information he's ever given us has checked out.
A confidential human source that had been reliable previously to the FBI. A confidential human source gave credible information. This FD 1023 is damning. I do a podcast 3 days a week, Verdict with Ted Cruz. The podcast has gone into the details.
This is a very crucial piece of our investigation.
Okay, so that was then, and this is now.
This is a very crucial piece of our investigation. You know, at the end of the day, he wasn't an important part of this investigation because I didn't even know who he was.
Now they have to go about making a whole new reality, okay? They have to go about. They lost 2 witnesses so far. 2 of their informants turned out to be foreign agents doing the dirty work of the Chinese government over there with Mr. Luft, and now with Smirnov doing the dirty work of Putin, interfering in our elections to accuse Hunter Biden and Joe Biden of being criminally purchased by foreign governments. And they are literally listening to foreign governments. They have all become useful idiots at the least, and at the worst, they don't care. They don't care that they're doing the bidding of Vladimir Putin and President Xi. They just don't care. I mean, this should be the end. Not that anybody even realizes this, I don't think. Do you know that there's an impeachment inquiry going on when they're not vacationing in the House of Representatives? You know, we have this immigration crisis at the border. We got a bipartisan piece of legislation passed by the United States Senate with 22 Republicans joining all the Democrats, throwing it into the House, saying, come on, put it on the floor because you know you have the votes on the floor to pass this. And then it goes to Biden. He signs it into law, and we get some sort of a manageable-looking, manageable functioning border. Okay? We increase the level of fear that you have to express and prove to claim asylum, which puts you in a detention facility where your claim will be heard forthwith. You are not going to be released into the interior of the country to come back 6 years later when we have a spare judge to hear your claim. And on, right? They're not interested in solving that problem. They're certainly not interested in paying our bills because they become due on March 1st, okay? And they're not even here. And they certainly don't give a damn about finding the truth about these informants that are giving them dirty, bad information about Hunter Biden and Joe Biden. And you know what's really sad? You know, Hunter Biden, for all of his flaws, and there are so many of them, okay? Yes, Hunter Biden was a drug abuser. Hunter Biden didn't pay his taxes until he did, and then he had to pay all the fines, and he has. Why did he do that? Because he was a drug abuser. He was a crackhead. Last I checked, crackheads don't make the best decisions. They just don't. But before the crack, okay, this is a result of losing his big brother. You understand that, okay? But before that, the guy went to Yale, and suddenly he's I don't know, not qualified to do very much of anything in this world, according to the Republicans. He's not qualified to do anything. Guy graduated freaking Yale. Ted Cruz graduated Harvard and Yale. Yeah, somehow he's qualified to be a senator. But Hunter, no, nothing. And you know they're doing this so that maybe he'll kill himself and it will, just destroy Joe Biden. I mean, every tool in the toolbox they are using.
James Comer, Jim Jordan, Jason Smith, and their colleagues have distorted the facts by cherry-picking lines from a bank statement, manipulating texts I sent, editing the testimony of my friends and former business partners, and misstating personal information that was stolen from me. There is no fairness or decency in what these Republicans are doing. They have lied over and over about every aspect of my personal and professional life. So much so that their lies have become the false facts believed by too many people. No matter how many times it is debunked, they continue to insist that my father's support of Ukraine against Russia is the result of a non-existent bribe. They displayed naked photos of me during an oversight hearing. And they have taken the light of my dad's love, for me, and presented it as darkness. They have no shame.
True that. They have no shame. They have no remorse. They don't make amends for when they get caught doing bad things. They don't acknowledge that they did a bad. Here's a guy who's in recovery for a while now, long time, okay? And his recovery is holding. Why? Because he actually made amends. He admits what he did. He accepts what he can't change. He has wisdom beyond his years. And Large Marge decided to show naked pictures of him in an oversight hearing. What the actual F is going on in that House of Representatives? I mean, it is so disgraced by those people, by these useful idiots. And that's what we used to call Russian agents during the Cold War. They were people who could be useful to Russia, and they were idiotic enough to do it. Tucker Carlson, well, if you call him a useful idiot, it's an insult to useful idiots. Really. Because he's not an idiot, okay? He knows what he's doing, and he's doing it willingly. He's doing it because he believes in the mission of white Christian nationalism. And Vladimir Putin is a natural ally if you want a country that is governed by the philosophy of white Christian nationalism, because that's what Russia is. And, you know, it's like the opiate of the masses, this white Christian nationalism. And people just, they are so in such despair there. They are, it's like abandon hope, all ye who enter here. Because they know that there's no chance to change anything through any legal means. There just isn't. And this is why they're destroying our institutions here. This is why. Then there's no legal means to change anything here. And they will use every tool in the toolbox to get to white Christian nationalism. I'm telling you, you won't like it. You won't. And I don't know why people in Upper Michigan think that they will be considered a white Christian nationalist while doing, you know, like shots of Jägermeister. I honestly, I don't know why you think that you would pass the test as being, you know, somebody who could pass the religious test of Christianity. You know you're doing stuff up there that, you know, isn't exactly out of the Bible. Why do you think that you would be deemed pure? Why do you think you would be spared their religious, I don't know, test? You have women that are trying to have babies right now. Women who are married and using IVF and trying to have families, doing the right thing when no one's looking, and they have to be retaliated against.
Clear for takeoff. Randi Rhodes. Randi Rhodes. Randi Rhodes. RandiRhodes.com.
The Bob Cesca Show.
Bob Cesca.
Am I crazy, or should the Smirnov story end the Republican Party? I mean, I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. This should be a much bigger deal than kind of what I'm seeing in the mainstream press once again.
You're certainly not crazy. I mean, you may be, but not in this way. You know,
Thank you.
It's insane. I mean, he even has a great name, Smirnoff, right? Like, it's already a good brand to be talking about.
That's right.
You know?
This guy's surrounded by Russian intelligence officials who are feeding him disinformation to then feed to the Republican Party. And now it's all out there. The Republican Party either willingly accepted the disinformation or stupidly accepted the disinformation. I think either explanation is equally damning, don't you think?
Of course. I mean, either we've got a couple of morons running things, which we know we do. I mean, James Comer and Jim Jordan are guys that you kind of feel like should be sitting in a padded room, or maybe not let them near animal feces because they might start playing in it. When you start looking at all this stuff, you know, when you say, why isn't this the biggest story? Yeah, because if you look at the context of Donald Trump and Paul Manafort and Gates, how can we believe that only Trump has been bought off? Clearly Rand Paul, as John McCain once said, and I just did a video about, was the senator for Vladimir Putin. That's what McCain's words, that he was so anti-NATO. We've got Mike Lee and others in that same boat. And then you start looking at the ones like Mike Johnson, George Santos, all these people that were bought off. And now you see this, Comer and Jim Jordan literally laundering Russian talking points in the whole Hunter Biden Brazen thing. But a lot of people have now heard it a million times over and will believe it. And you just say to yourself, how is this not the biggest story in the history of civilization?
Bob Cesca.
It's the Bob Cesca Show. New episodes every Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, everywhere you get your podcasts, and at bobcescashow.com.
I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. On this day in labor history, the year was 2004. That was the day Secretary of Education Rod Page stated that he considered the National Education Association to be a terrorist organization. He made the remarks during a meeting with governors who were visiting the White House. His apology a few hours later was just as inflammatory. There he expressed his frustration at the, quote, obstructionist scare tactics the NEA's Washington lobbyists have employed against No Child Left Behind's historic reforms. Representing almost 3 3 million educators, the NEA had been fighting many aspects of the No Child Left Behind Act passed by Congress in 2001. The teachers' unions had initially supported the measure, but they came to realize that the act was designed to undermine public education in favor of charter, private, and religious schools. No Child Left Behind mandated regular standardized testing of students. It also threatened financial penalties and school closures. Governors on board with the goals of the act soon grew frustrated. The Bush administration reneged on federal funding necessary for its implementation. The union movement was outraged at Page's smear. John Sweeney, then president of the AFL-CIO, said, quote, "The Bush administration would like to label all those who disagree with it as terrorists in order to cover up its policies, which are harmful to working families and to divert attention from its inability to create good jobs." By 2015, the No Child Left Behind Act had received so much criticism from every corner that the Every Student Succeeds Act replaced it. This act retains Common Core standards but transfers school accountability to the states. It is now pending review under President Donald Trump's Regulatory Freeze Directive. In 2017, it was pending review under President Donald Trump's Regulatory Freeze Directive.
I watched it on TV.
All things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
Just to remind folks who Smirnoff is, because they might not know the name.
Right.
This was the individual that had claimed that he had been told by somebody who ran Burisma that Joe Biden himself was going to get $5 million for all these shady dealings.
Right.
This is the guy that Senator Chuck Grassley was insisting that this FBI report be revealed to the public.
Correct.
This was the guy who basically provided hours worth of content on Fox, especially in prime time. This was the guy who, James Comer, the guy who runs the House Oversight Committee, was relying on as a major source of information. And the FBI is saying the guy's a liar. In fact, so much so we're charging him with a crime.
Correct, Jake.
Okay, so that's one guy. The other guy, did you remember the whistleblower that went missing? Maybe that's how people will remember Mr. Luft. Okay, he was James Comer's witness. He was the informant that James Comer previously was relying on. This happened in July, in the summer, that all of a sudden the witness, the whistleblower, his informant went missing. Maria Bartiromo, she was like out of her mind. What do you mean you lost your witness? What do you mean you lost him? How did you lose your witness? Turns out the guy is an agent that was working against the United States to subvert the sanctions that were on Iran. Okay, he's an arms dealer, and this is who they were relying on, Mr. Luft.
Luft was initially arrested in February before skipping bail. He skipped bail. He's a fugitive.
Great.
Congressional Republicans said they spoke with Luft about the business dealings of the Biden family, told members of the press he had gone missing. Those same lawmakers also have called him, quote, very credible. As recently as Friday, Republican Congressman James Comer of Kentucky, as I said, he's the chair of the Oversight Committee, said this.
He's very credible, and the people on MSNBC who made fun of me when I said we had an informant that was missing, they should feel like fools right now. They are fools. And this is their worst nightmare because, again, this is a credible witness that the FBI flew all the way to Brussels to interview and sent several agents to interview.
So to recap, Joe, this man Gal Luft, who James Comer and
hold on. Stupidity.
Hold on.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. Okay.
I got a checklist.
So he's your man. That Congressman Comer, the head of oversight, Senator Ron Johnson has been on TV a lot talking about this man as well. They've hung their case. They said he can tell the story of the alleged Biden crime family doing business with China, et cetera.
I mean, this is the character and caliber of their whistleblowers, of their informants. They are working for foreign governments, and when they're charged, one of them just fled. He just fled the country. Mr. Luft, Gal Luft. It's so sick and it's so twisted and it's so damaging. And this is why I think finally, you heard Jill Biden. Jill never gets involved in the politics of it all. She's, she's very busy with her community college teaching job. She still does it. She still goes to work every day. It's pretty amazing, okay, the quality of this person. And she finally spoke up and said, what you're doing to Hunter Biden is so cruel. It's so unbelievably, diabolically cruel. She never says anything. It's gone so far off the deep end, this hunting for, a Biden. You know what's interesting, though, is both of these people, both of these whistleblowers, the Smirnoff, the trusted informant, and the Gal Luft dude, they're both dual citizens of Israel. Do you know that? I just find that fantastical. I just really do. So if you understand that Donald Trump had a Muslim ban, if you understand that President Xi actually has camps full of Muslim Chinese called Uyghurs, okay, if you understand that Vladimir Putin has a white Christian nationalist religious thing going on in Russia, and you're saying I can't vote for Joe Biden because of the Palestinian-Israeli contretemps. Do you think you're going to do better under Donald Trump? Think Donald Trump is going to care about the Palestinian two-state solution in any foreseeable? No, he's not. That's why I say there's no solution for this problem. Scott in L.A.
Hello, Queen.
Hello.
So I'm calling with a mostly pointless anecdote.
Okay.
But this Republican Russia thing is so bizarre. And the Tucker Carlson is like, everyone, it's so great here. I had a flashback to my old boss. And I didn't think anything of it at the time until just listening to your show today. This was before the election in 2016. She was like you, great personality. I loved her. She'd been trying to recruit me forever, started working for her. And she went on a trip to Russia. And she came back. And there's a little bottle of vodka on my desk and a little chocolate. And then there's a poster of Putin with the shirt off on the cow or the horse or whatever.
The horse.
Remember
The
that?
horse. Yeah.
And, okay, whatever. But then I just remember her saying, Scott, it is so nice there. She goes, everybody, she goes, Putin, his face is everywhere. Everyone loves him, not like here. Like so many people don't like Obama, and we can't trust Hillary. Putin's face is everywhere. Everyone loves him. It's so nice to be in a country. And I just think about it now. I'm like, this Russia Republican thing has been around since at least 2015, 2016.
Yeah.
Because this smart woman, who I thought, was talking like that back then. It's so like a slow drip, and it bleeds into the minds of people.
Can I just ask you if you know, did she ever get out of St. Petersburg? Was she ever allowed to go anywhere but St. Petersburg?
I'm guessing no.
No, I'm really
not.
sure she couldn't. And I'm really sure she had to be on a tour or with a minder to even go anywhere in St. Petersburg. She probably took the little river tour down to see, Catherine's Winter Palace. It's beautiful. But the second you get on the subway and you go to the neighborhood, you go to let's say Brooklyn or Queens of St. Petersburg, the whole place is filthy. There's nothing but Stalinist, block housing with 10 families living in an apartment. Why? Because Russians make $200 a week. That's what they make. You've never seen unhappier people than in Russia. No one smiles. No one's happy. No one.
But Putin's face is everywhere,
It is.
Randy. They love him.
His face is everywhere. That is true. It's on coffee mugs. That means she went into the shop that she was directed to go shopping in, right?
And I remember she got the coffee mug, and she would just sit at her desk across from me and go, God, just look how masculine he is. look how masculine he is.
Scott,
those are man boobs, aren't they?
You know he's a little guy. He's a very little guy.
So bizarre.
He's a little guy. He's got tons of filler in his face, okay? The man he's practically a woman, okay? He's petite. He's like a little spinner, just
hilarious.
Yeah. Not masculine at all. This is why he tries so damn hard. Very sad. But yes, his face is everywhere. You want to see something really creepy? Go look up Chechnya, okay? That war, holy crap. Then look up Aleppo and see what they did to Aleppo. And then look and see what they're doing, over there in Gaza. This is all by design, you understand, okay? This is all by design.
Clear for takeoff. Randi Rhodes. RandiRhodes.com.
This is Stephanie Miller, and here's what you missed.
Oh, look at that. Thank you, New York Times. Anti-Trump burnout. The resistance says it's exhausted. Oh, no, we are not exhausted. Vive la resistance!
Oui.
First of all, vive la resistance! Vive. We have some ennui. Some General Trump ennui.
We're in a cul-de-sac.
Yes, we are in a political cul-de-sac. We're exhausted by him.
Yeah.
And anxious to send him into the dustbin of history. Yes. Oh, my God, I'm so tired of these memes, right? Yeah, Hal said, out of ageist, hand-wringing leads, the New York Times relaunches the myth of base exhaustion. In truth, we're only tired of bucking the cynical narrative that mischaracterizes frustration with media spin as diminished investment in the election's historically high stakes. Election after election, we keep winning with record high turnout. So where is the evidence that, no one's going to turn out for Biden, the base is exhausted, blah, blah, blah. Really? Because we know that we're women have already lost their bodily autonomy and we're on the verge of fascism. Oh my God. By the way, Chris, Rude Pundit was able to live read the Trump statement finally. It took him 3 days to make a statement about Navalny, and I know that you'll be shocked to know he made it about himself.
Of course he did.
And compared himself to Navalny.
Yes, he did.
Of course he did.
Yeah, in that scenario, Joe Biden is Putin.
Right. Laura Ingraham agreed.
Yes.
Oh, no, really?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pull my hair.
She called Biden a tyrant.
Ah, okay.
I didn't get it for you because it would just make you mad.
Yes.
I think all we had to do was just tell her about it.
If there's one voice that's more annoying than Trump's, it would be hers.
You worked with her once.
Ah. Yeah, I was overly
You
nice.
encouraged her.
I was nice and encouraging of her. Now
Yeah.
look what's happened.
Created a monster.
Yeah, exactly.
Hear all this and more on the next Stephanie Miller Show.
President Trump will have a miracle second term.
He is the one that God's going to put his hands on.
God says, I'm going to flip this thing, and we haven't seen anything yet, but it's coming.
We're not crazy, they're crazy.
And justice will be served, says your God.
This is far from being over.
Nothing will stop me from my plan of putting my son, Donald Trump, back in that White House.
All of this is culminating in Donald Trump getting his second term of presidency. It has to.
I hear the sound of victory. I hear the sound of victory.
Make America great again.
That's what the Bible says.
That is spiritual warfare.
We'll take it by force.
This is war.
Let me tell you something. You ain't seen an insurrection yet.
Oh, for God's sake.
Here's our big word of the day, extraterritoriality. It expresses a sketchy legal theory asserting that rulers in one state have a right to enforce their laws in another state. The most prominent use of it was in the infamous Fugitive Slave Act of 1850, requiring officials in northern anti-slave states to capture and return escaped slaves to their plantation owners in the South, thus applying Southern slave laws in northern jurisdictions. This abomination was finally repealed in 1864. But 160 years later, here comes another faction of right-wing zealots trying to revive the slave law concept of extraterritoriality, this time applying it to any and all American women who dare to make their own reproductive health decisions. I'm ashamed to say that this repressive use of the doctrine is being led by my state's misogynist.
Don't give up. Don't give up. What's true?
Call in, connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
All right, 33 after the hour. Catherine in Baltimore.
Hi, Randy. Great show today.
Oh, thank you.
I have two things to tell you, and the second one is a great Schadenfreude, delicious one for you. There is a telephone number. I have the phone number for the DOJ, and there's a comment line where you can leave a comment for A.G. Garland. And I called today, and I left him.
Oh, what happened to her?
She just hung herself up. Somehow she disconnected herself.
Oh,
We certainly
that's too
didn't do
bad.
it. Call back.
MJ in Iowa.
Hey, Randy, how you doing?
All right, how are
taking
you?
My call today. Thanks. And originally, I was wanting to talk about student loan stuff, but now we're kind of on this thing with Trump and all that. And Republicans, would you like me to hit that current comment or go back to the student loans?
Whatever floats your boat. It's okay. It's all good.
Okay.
All right.
I first of all want to thank you so much for what you're doing for democracy. I think it's really important to have these shows, and I do whatever I can to spread your name and out there on social media. But the primary thing I want to talk about is this guy who has been the FBI informant, but really he's a Russian operative. What I do see is, well, his name's Smirnov. I actually prefer Grey Goose, but, it's one of those things where you say, the whole thing with this guy, it's been out there for over like a year and a half, and it was that 1023 form.
Yes.
With Grassley had it. It's raw data. There was
It's
no
an
data.
interview. A 1023 is when the FBI interviews somebody. They just talk to them, and so they commemorate whatever information they are getting in this interview, and that's what a 1023 is. The reason why this one was put in a safe, the reason why this one was, deemed to be classified information, is because they understood that this guy had been turned by Russia and that he was working to and they wanted to see, like what he was going to say next, right? And Grassley just popped it so that you couldn't even, like spy on the spy anymore.
Right. And what they did is they didn't verify any of that information. The 1023 is just raw info. No way did they verify it. And then Grassley releases it, this document that should not have been released. Well, it's like a prosecutor saying, okay, I have all these things I want to charge this client with, but we haven't verified any of it.
Well, it's worse than that. They knew, they were warned that this guy was probably a Russian agent. And the guy before, the Luft guy, who nobody even knows his name, but that was the guy that disappeared. That was the witness that James Comer lost, right? That guy, he jumped bail, okay? He fled the country. And he was working to subvert the Iranian sanctions by selling Iranian oil for the Iranians, calling it Brazilian oil, taking the money and buying weapons. This is like Iran-Contra all over again.
Corruption.
The same damn scam, the same scheme. But now that everybody in the Republican Congress knew, that they were, obviously acting on foreign governments at the foreign government's behest, they actually exposed them so that you couldn't even spy on the spy.
Right. And my question would be now, shouldn't these members of the Congress, Comer, Jordan, McCarthy, Nancy Mace, Charles Grassley, shouldn't they be expelled because of this? For a year and a half, they've perpetuated these lies to everyone in our country. The damage is done already.
Yes. Yes,
so
and
I think
you
they
know
should be expelled and even jailed.
Well,
this
the
is
best
espionage.
The best way to expel them is we have an election coming and to not reelect them.
Yeah,
and so that's why
I'm doing that aggressively here in Iowa, helping Democrats to oust our. We have the tribunal here, is what I call it in Iowa. Republican governors, Senate, and House. So they're doing whatever they can just to make and Stone have laws here in Iowa that are going to hurt the public school system, the whole women's right to choice. And then they're at the same time doing everything to hurt the farmers and the water and all this. So, but it's kind of a shell game with the farmers because there's a lot of Iowa farmers that are voting for Trump.
Well, I don't know how they could. They lost their marketplaces in China because of him. I mean, these are businessmen, farmers, okay, and they're trying to make deals to export their whatever it is pork or soybeans or corn or whatever it is. They're trying. Even cattle now is trying to find a market and place in China. And the idea that Donald Trump put tariffs on things coming into this country that We're paying. I mean, he always, nobody got a dime from China. Well, we didn't either. The Treasury of the United States doesn't get any money from China. The Treasury of the United States gets money from people who are paying the import tax that he levied on Chinese goods, and that's us. We're paying that.
And no one on that far right even understands what the tariffs did to our country.
No.
Like, here, follow the money. Look what happened when.
But see, this is
and
what
if you want to know who's doing a great job, look at Joe Biden, the only president who has kept our country out of a recession of any developed country.
But
it's Joe Biden.
I'm saying something different to you. I'm saying to you that when you talk to your friends who are farmers, how in the world could they not know that Donald Trump messed up their business markets that they had spent years of their lives setting up to receive the stuff that they farm, whether it's corn or pork or whatever it is, the soybeans that they are exporting. They're exporting it. They had marketplaces. Donald Trump sent them checks and told them, don't worry about your marketplace that you spent 15 years building.
Yep. The con. There's the con there, the grift. And every single one of these things he's done, it's the grift. And you know it. You've been in New York your life. You know his grift.
I'm saying to you, when you say you're going to talk to farmers and you can't believe the farmers are going to vote for him, and I'm telling you I can't believe it either because Donald Trump destroyed their marketplace.
And I just, I want the Democratic Party here to just print this all up so you can see it point by point by point. And everybody take a little role play class and sit down and just take these objections on one by one and say, do you understand that he has hurt you financially? Your inheritance, your kids' inheritance. Do you understand that? Just in terms of what we're trying to do with Joe Biden, oh my God, it's like, would you rather have this orange guy in the presidency again? Every day is like chaos?
Right.
Thanks. No, I would not. I'll take the older guy who occasionally slurs his words because he's had a speech problem his entire life, but he has the ability to pull the country together as well as everyone. He's doing amazing things for our country.
He is. I got to say, he really is. He's been more like FDR than I really thought I could hope for. The idea that
I wish I was closer and sit down and have coffee with you.
I know. It would be great because, I live in Florida. You can't really talk outside of your Commerce Park because, you'll get shot. You'll get killed is what it is.
I know. Well, I love you. Thank you so much. I don't want to take your whole call.
It's okay. The other woman just disappeared. I don't know. Never called back. What did she want to talk about?
I think she wanted to talk about her loans and how she was glad, even though she didn't qualify, she was glad for everybody who did qualify. She was really excited about it.
I thought she wanted to talk about Marjorie Taylor Greene. Actually, the Supreme Court just turned her away, and now Large Marge has to pay $100,000.
Randi Rhodes. RandiRhodes.com.
There hasn't been a positive thing happen in this administration since it came about.
Now, Teddy Roosevelt had the square deal. FDR had the New Deal. Truman had the fair deal. What President Biden, Democrats, all of us have accomplished in the last few years is a big deal.
Results matter. Inflation now is down to 3.2%. Wages are up to 4.4%. The economy is booming, 5.2% GDP growth in the last quarter.
With a gallon of gas now at the lowest Thanksgiving price since 2020, prices for gasoline down 9 straight weeks.
By so many measures, the economy is in good shape. Unemployment near 50-year lows. Wages going up. The economy, it is growing. Inflation, it is slowing.
Because of the CHIPS and Science Act, one of the most significant economic plans since FDR. I'm proud of the work Biden and Harris have done.
President Biden and his team worked 24/7 with partners in the region to make sure that this release was possible. This is a president who is right now showing the American people what real leadership looks like.
It's amazing how many times in his career Joe Biden has been counted out, only to come back and prove the critics wrong.
I got rid of Roe v. Wade.
Well, should the woman be punished for having an abortion?
There has to be some form of punishment. We will root out the radical left thugs that live like vermin.
You would never abuse power as retribution against anybody.
Trump wrote on social media, if you go after me, I'm coming after you.
He says, you're not going to be a dictator, are you? I said, no, other than day one.
I am your retribution.
What is a failed coup? Is it a loss? A defeat? A victory for the good guys? What happens to those who perpetrated the coup? Are there consequences? Or do they remain in power? And if they do, when are we safe? What will stop them next time?
Donald Trump's campaign is obsessed with the past. He's willing to sacrifice our democracy, put himself in power. Not America, not you.
A failed coup with no consequences is just a training exercise for the next attack.
I am your voice. I am your warrior. I am your justice. I am your retribution.
And make no mistake, they're going to try again. Unless you stop them.
Whether you're listening to Leslie Marshall each Tuesday through Friday or Brad Bannon each Monday, you can hear them from 6 to 7 p.m. Eastern on the Progressive Voices Network. Here's a sample of what you'll hear.
Bob Fisher. Mr. Fisher is Deputy Director of the Teamsters Airline Division. Talk to me about the past with Delta. Delta's been difficult to unionize in the past, right? They also have the fewest union members of the 4 largest passenger carriers. In Delta, only the pilots and the controllers are unionized. Why do you think that is?
Well, they've just been successful. Every time somebody comes knocking on the door to try to organize at Delta, Delta throws money at it, and only in wages. Delta throws out the big shiny object wages and doesn't do anything with the back of the book like vacation or seniority or any of those things. They convince people not to sign a card by giving them wage rates, and then they take it away in other ways, like through their benefits and their retirement and all the other work rules that go along with a contract. But that's
what has not worked in the past is probably going to work this time, because you have 3 unions coming to the table, 3 unions not willing to back down, and 3 unions probably telling their members, we're not going to just say we already know Delta's MO, right? We know what they're doing and we're not going to fall for it. A big part of the reason that the techs, my understanding, at Delta Airlines are organizing is because it's not the paycheck that seems to be front and center here, but more the concern about job security. Tell us what's going on with
Fatality. This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
Outcry in Alabama. The state's largest hospital stopping all IVF procedures, fearing a lawsuit after a controversial court ruling has patients angry and confused.
My rage knows no bounds.
The University of Alabama at Birmingham announcing it's pausing all IVF treatments, saying it's saddened as it evaluates the potential that our patients and physicians could be prosecuted criminally or face punitive damages for following the standard of care. Abby Crane, a patient at UAB, has frozen embryos she wanted to use soon.
I don't know what's next. I don't know if I need to be calling an out-of-state doctor. Not knowing is scary.
That uncertainty, the result of an unprecedented ruling from the Alabama Supreme Court last week, finding people can be sued for destroying frozen embryos. The court concluding embryos on ice are no different than babies in the womb. Fertility clinics and doctors across Alabama now in legal jeopardy as frozen embryos with genetic abnormalities are routinely discarded as part of IVF before implantation, part of a process to help patients avoid miscarriages or other complications. That decision now a hot-button political issue. Nikki Haley overnight working to clear up her position after these comments to NBC's Ali Vitale.
Embryos to me are babies. So even those created through IVF. I mean, I had artificial insemination. That's how I had my son. But when you talk about an embryo, you are talking about, to me, that's a life.
Haley later saying overnight,
I didn't say that I agreed with the Alabama ruling.
You didn't?
Our goal is to always do what the parents want with their embryo. It is theirs.
Not in Alabama, Nikki. And South Carolina is just a stone's throw away. And you have to run in a primary in South Carolina on Saturday. So, of course, she's caught saying, they're babies to me. Embryos in petri dishes, they're children. They're children. And I had artificial insemination, which is different from IVF. Okay, but she had some intervention to help her have a child. But the women, like I said, Alabama, you need to hang a sign there that says, abandon all hope, ye who enter here. You know where that phrase comes from, right? That's right. It's for hell. It's the, slogan for, hey, welcome to hell. That's what Alabama has turned into. And why? Because these psychotic white Christian nationalist Republicans, and we shouldn't even call them Republicans because that party doesn't exist anymore. It actually threw in the 80s with the religious right and started, playing to them and accepting their very, tight-knit version of what is and what isn't considered an American, an upstanding, solid citizen. You had to now be a Christian also. I don't know. But Ronald Reagan actually encouraged all this meddling and mingling and commingling of, the laws of man with the Bible to the point where we are. So thanks a lot. But there is no moderation. There's no, mediation anymore the way that there used to be between the Christian right and the evangelical community. In fact, the evangelical community is more powerful than the Republican Party, what's left of it. And so they are packing the courts with like-minded white Christian nationalists. And once you decimate our institutions that operate under the laws of man, the ones that we pass in the House, in the Senate, and signed off on by the president, that's how America governs. That's how we self-govern. That's how America creates laws. They want to do away with all of it. All of it. That's why they're hollowing out the House of Representatives. Every decent Republican, every single one of them, is leaving. This is why the majority in the House is like one seat now. Truly, one seat. Because people are leaving. Ken Buck is leaving. Every normal, and that's hard for me to say, okay, normal Republican, because I never really thought they were, I never really thought they were normal. But, okay, every normal Republican that wants to deprive Americans of, health care in the name of Christianity, which never made any sense to me, they're leaving now. They're leaving because, A, they know they're going to lose in 2024. See, this is another way that you can know what's really going on the inside. How many Republicans are willing to stay through 2024, 2025? Very few. Why? Because they don't want to be in the minority. It's not fun being in the minority. You don't get to do anything. You don't get to chair any committees. You don't get to, introduce any legislation. If you wanted to introduce legislation the way that we do, right, the way that we want to, you have to go through a discharge petition, and we all know that's a heavy lift. Not only do you need 218 votes, 218 signatures on the petition, but then you have to wait 30 days, and not just any 30 days, 30 legislative days, on and on. Okay, it's a heavy lift. So they don't want to be in the minority. So they're leaving. They're leaving. They don't want to be part of a Nazi regime. They don't want to be part of a fascist government. They don't want to do more things to ruin and taint and hurt our institutions. Okay, they're not really big fans of what's going on in this country, okay? This thing in Alabama is just a taste, just like Texas and these abortion bans. This is just a tiny little sliver of what they have in mind if they are given the reins of power again. We're talking about, okay, remember when Dobbs came down? Never mind all the leaking, and we never found out who the leaker was because we put the Supreme Court in charge of investigating the Supreme Court. What could go wrong there? But the Dobbs decision, remember Clarence? He was like threatening, don't worry, we're coming after Obergefell, the gay marriage. We're coming after same-sex marriage next. You know that's next. He is, now, don't blame me. Clarence Thomas and his wife, who participated in the insurrection, okay, who refuses to recuse himself from cases having to do with the insurrection, is a white Christian nationalist. I know. It defies the type, but it's true. It's true. And that's why he signaled to all the people that he would need to support him against an ethics rule or against an investigation into the money he took from billionaires to take him fishing, okay? The Hobby Lobby money that is all about foot washing now during the Super Bowl. You saw all those commercials about washing feet? I hate feet. I'm like grossed out by that. Okay. They want to go after contraception, as he said. They want to go after gay marriage, as he said. They also want to go after no-fault divorce, okay? These white Christian nationalists are not just out to make women have babies they don't want to have and not help women who do want to have. They want God to be in charge of all of it. Your health, marriage, who can get divorced, who can't. I mean, pretty much mullahs will hear your case and they will decide whether or not you can be divorced. Truly. It's what they envision. It's what they want. They want public schools ended. And if we're going to have them at all, they want books banned, okay? They don't want any sexual health education to be taught to kids who are, starting to come into their puberty years and maybe are freaked out because where is this blood coming from? What do I do? Nobody told me anything about this, right? No contraception, no mifepristone, no plan A, no plan B, no nothing. And when you hear Donald Trump say he'll be a dictator, but only on day one, I want you to know it's in the homework today. There's two things you need to read if you're interested in the white Christian nationalist aspect of this kind of, direction that the Republican, I don't even know what to call them, that the MAGA group wants to take us into. And one of them is a Politico article that has the entire document, okay, that the America First think tank called CRA, which was founded in 2021 by Russell Boyd, who was the OMB director under Trump and is now directing the white Christian nationalist agenda, and another guy named William Wolf, another former Trump administration official. He posted this on, Twitter, but he deleted it. But people who pay attention captured it. They want America to be guided by biblical teachings in every aspect, including religious tests for citizenship, including that, okay? But when he's talking about being a dictator on day one, they are telling Donald Trump, in order to accomplish our wet dream of an authoritarian nation under God, you have to use the Insurrection Act on day one and deploy U.S. troops to suppress the protesters, because people aren't going to like this.
Clear for takeoff.
Randi Rhodes. 911, what's your emergency?
America's healthcare system is broken and people are dying.
Welcome to Code WACK, where we shine a light on America's callous healthcare system, how it hurts us, and what we can do about it. I'm your host, Brenda Gazzar. This time on Code WAC, some states are making it easier for trans and non-binary individuals to get gender-affirming care, which can include medical interventions such as hormone replacement therapy or transition surgery to help them align various aspects of their lives with their gender identity. But a record number of bans were passed last year to outlaw or limit such care. What kind of toll does this take on those in these communities? What policy solutions are needed to ensure they have access to the medical care they need? To find out, we spoke to Ash Orr, a trans organizer from West Virginia and press relations manager for the National Center for Transgender Equality, or NCTE.
There's been a lot of impacts that we have seen here on our youth. We saw in 2023 alone over 500 bills introduced that targeted LGBTQ plus rights, and over 400 of these bills targeted the rights of the trans community, and close to 150 of these bills specifically aimed to restrict or outright access or ban access to life-saving gender-affirming care for youth, which in some cases was as old as 25. We now have 21 states that have passed bans on gender-affirming care, and these bans include substantial financial professional penalties for the providers that do provide this necessary care to patients.
Get the full Code WAC story on progressivevoices.com and on the PV app. Catch all our episodes by subscribing to Code WAC wherever you find your podcasts. This podcast is powered by Heal California, a nonprofit that uplifts the voices of those fighting for healthcare reform around the country. Until next time, stay healthy.
Now, the top of the hour on the Progressive Voices channel on TuneIn presents the Green News Report.
Chemicals from coal plants and natural gas pipelines can drift hundreds of miles across state lines.
U.S. Supreme Court hears challenge to EPA's landmark Good Neighbor pollution rule.
Investing in our water,